Welcome in, everyone. I'm SquishableMoon, your shooting star with a range addiction and fewer brain cells than the common garden snail, and welcome back to my channel. Warning, this video has mentions of feral, not safe for work, grooming, and graphic content. If you are in a good headspace, please come back at a different time to watch this video. Do not try to harass or contact anyone mentioned in this video. All my sources can be found in the description below if you want to check. However, if I get something incorrect in my video, please feel free to correct me in the comments below. With that being said, let's get into the video. My Little Pony, the fandom, a melting pot of so many different people that has spanned over generations and generations of content. Now, you guys know I love My Little Pony. Obviously, from all the videos I've made, I'm sure you already know that. I have always loved My Little Pony, starting before the days of friendship is magic. Whether you'd like to admit it or not, My Little Pony has made its mark in the internet history forever. However, as much as I love My Little Pony and the community being full of friendship and love, I have some things I want to talk about. I joined the My Little Pony community around the age of 15 through 16, and the first place I joined was on Facebook. Was anybody else traumatized while in the My Little Pony fandom? Because I know I can't be the only one who is traumatized with how many people hate the fandom. There must be other people out there with similar experiences. I'm here to talk about some of the crazy stuff that I had to deal with or others had to deal with in the fandom back in the day, and how I feel about it now that I'm an adult. That being said, this video is going to be more of a rant video. These videos on my channel are very rare, so don't worry if you don't like this kind of content. I just wanted to get it off my chest and get it out there into the universe so I can talk to other people about it. First off, the weird fetish content inside the fandom, also known as cloth. Bruh, I have not said that word in so long, and it is killing my brain cells already. Like every community, of course, there will be adult content. However, being a fandom based on a show about feral, magical horses, you can imagine there is very little to work with unless you get creative. You have to remember this was before Equestria Girls came out, so all anyone had to work with were the ponies themselves. So the solutions you think would be just to make human versions of the ponies to draw not safe for work of, or even go the furry solution and make them anthro ponies with human bodies. You'd be wrong. Well, yes, some people did make human versions to draw their not safe for work. Others decided to go the other route and draw full-on horse porn. Basically, this wasn't just one or two people. No, my silly little friends. This was loads of people. Groups would be flooded with horse-on-horse action, commissions, aces, eaches, and everything in between. There was so much around the peak in the fandom. I cannot tell you how many times I had to see full-on animal not safe for work while a child, especially in a fandom that was supposed to cater for everyone, especially since it was a kid show. I was friends with a large popular artist who ended up drawing MLP cloth a lot. Not only did they draw feral not safe for work, but they didn't care if children drew them not safe for work. They never cared to stop children from following or interacting with this art. This artist and I became friends when I was around the age of 17 through 18. I looked up to them quite a lot because they had amazing art and they were very, very well loved in the community at the time. In fact, people loved their OC so much that I'm pretty sure they were able to sell adopts for over $1,000 at one point. Around this time, I didn't have many friends and I was chronically online. Even if I wanted to go offline, I would immediately come back because this was my only outlet at the time. I was a newbie artist trying to make a living online by selling my own artwork, and I cannot tell you how many friends I had that ended up being into animal porn. And you would think this was only a problem in 2017. Obviously, people have learned from their mistakes now, but this stuff is still being posted to this day. Not only did I have to worry about people drawing not safe for work of ponies, but now I have to worry about people drawing not safe for work of Equestria Girls and their teenagers, I believe. I believe that they're teenagers and Equestria Girls, right? And then in the main show, they're adults. Either way, there is so much pony not safe for work out there. It made me absolutely bonkers. I hated seeing it and it was everywhere. Thankfully, nowadays, a lot of people realize that that's not exactly something we want to see. Normal people don't really want to look at, pony genitalia on their phone, especially at work. It's supposed to be a simple, kawaii, amazing show for kids, and it was just tainted by brony culture. Speaking of tainted by brony culture, I had the displeasure of stumbling upon a subcategory of the My Little Pony fandom, the fluffy My Little Pony community. A random friend I had on Facebook at the time had added me to a fluffy pony group. At the time, I just thought they were OCs based on Fluffle Puff, which, by the way, there are allegations that Fluffle Puff was accused of grooming a minor. I haven't done enough research on it to know if it's true or not, but it's just what I have seen and heard. Fluffy ponies, or Fluffle ponies, are small creatures with fluffy bodies and low intelligence. Generally depicted as fluffy creatures literally designed to love and play. They are a subsect of the My Little Pony Friendship is Magic fandom, though there is some debate connecting the origins of fluffy ponies subculture. It is generally attributed to the creation of Fluffle Puff by Mixer Mike 622 on January 2nd, 2012. The simple taco-loving, extremely fluffy pony is in fact a red herring. She is the original character created by Mike, also known as Fluffy, after gaining popularity for drawing a sketch of a fluffy pony. The modern dark fluffy culture is sometimes associated with the story Magical Ponies by an author called Guro Deskai, published on December 19, 2011, somehow predating the more well-known Fluffle Puff for only a month. The story is rather dark tale on humans raising pony concept, which somehow paved the way for basic modern fluffy pony headcanons, lisping baby speech and all. This too is a red herring, as most fluffy ponies in the earlier stories are portrayed as talking normally or having their dialogue presented in a third person. It wasn't until an anon post on Story about fluffy ponies wishing to off themselves before connecting it to playing and having the fluff speech become a regular occurrence in the fluffy pony stories. Now, fluffy ponies are divided in a number of general subcategories and subcultures, of which two are the most popular, called the abuse and the hugbox. Abuse subculture revolves around the harming physically or psychologically of the fluffy ponies, abuse stories, and pictures involving inordinate amounts of physical and mental abuse heaped on the fluffy ponies, quite often including dungeon-type scenarios, and many including not safe for work abuse, amputees, baby killing, lobotomy, slaughter, butchering, eating of the fluffy, starvation, and so on and so forth. By far the largest category, abusers tend to treat fluffies as bio toys or otherwise justifies their actions. This disparaging name, hugbox subculture, is focused on the cuteness of the fluffies. Often hugbox stories and art will focus on adorable nature of the fluffies and human interaction with them. Here, fluffies are treated with kindness and are often viewed as domestic, though speaking animals. Despite the claims of members of the abuse culture, pure hugbox is actually very, very rare to find in the fandom. So basically, what this is saying is that there is a part of the fandom and that I had to see where the fluffy ponies are depicted in sexual artwork that is torture induced. And it was really awful to see. It was almost like seeing baby ponies being tortured. And I cannot tell you how much heinous, disgusting, grotesque art I had to see of those adorable small ponies being ripped limb from limb or tortured or starved or being forced to breed non-stop. It was absolutely awful, and it just sucked seeing when I was a little kid. Another thing that I want to talk about, for a fandom that was supposed to be all about friendship and magic and learning to be friends with the people and being kind because of all the elements of harmony, there sure was a large amount of bullying. And I don't mean just your OC sucks type of bullying where they would judge your OC for being an alicorn because that was a thing. People weren't allowed to have alicorns back in the day because they were too quote-unquote powerful. But this was the kind of bullying that would actually drive people to self-harm and would actually cut them off from friends and family on the internet, and sometimes even cause them to be chased off the internet completely. I have firsthand seen how bad bullying can get in the My Little Pony fan base. I feel like the community is very clique-oriented. If you're not able to conform to the group that you want to be in, you're basically an enemy of that group. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Ponygram, but I never really was a part of the Ponygram scene, though it seemed really fun when I was younger. Ponygram is basically just My Little Pony Instagram, where people would have accounts based on their My Little Pony OCs that they were playing and role-playing as. The community of Ponygram is filled with lore and art and so much creativity. It's honestly incredible to see. A lot of the popular creators would of course be alicorns, and they would have the most people joining in on their AUs. Of course, the populars would get more of the admiration and attention, and often not allow other people to be alicorns in their story. However, some time ago, a video came out discussing how toxic Ponygram could be as a community. If you were trying to be an alicorn on the platform or start your own AU, you would be shunned or hated by the large community of people and the alicorns that they supported and looked up to. It was really sad to see, because no one can really own a theme. If you want to have an alicorn OC or a certain type of OC, make it. You can't own a concept or a race or a type of thing. I feel like you can make an OC of literally anything, and then somebody else would be like, you're copying me. And you weren't really copying because you never saw the design before. So if you're going to make a character, go ahead and make one. This is why I always say, people, if you want to take design elements that I've made, go ahead. I don't own any of the design elements I made. Preferably don't completely copy any of my characters. That should go without saying. But if you want to take, a horn aspect, the wing, the color palette, go ahead, rip off my stuff. I do not care. When I was a young baby in the My Little Pony community, I would often find myself stuck in drama and to basically stick up for friends. And I could not tell you how exhausting it was to constantly have to be involved in drama, because people would just keep pulling you back in, whether you had somebody to quote unquote, whether you were friends with someone quote unquote bad, or you commented on a post and they took it the wrong way. The My Little Pony community was easily upset over the smallest things. Thankfully, I had a pretty good time in the My Little Pony community, although it wasn't all that I was hoping it could be because of some of the stuff I was involved in. For all of the things that I had to go through, especially since I was part of the My Little Pony community at its peak and when I was very young. I do have a story from somebody that I used to know in the My Little Pony community who I recently started getting closer to, who was involved in drama a lot more than I was, and even went head-to-head with in drama before. They were kind enough to give me their story, which I am really grateful for. However, I'm going to be keeping their name anonymous and their OC names anonymous, so that way they can be completely safe from any scrutiny that they may receive in the community. All the names will be censored and changed. I will be doing this to protect their identity. I hope you respect that decision. I do ask, if you figure out who the story is from, please do not contact them, harass them, seek them out, or name them in the comments. I do want to keep them anonymous for the specific reason to protect them from anyone who may dislike them. Anonymous. I first joined the fandom in 2013. Just as a fan. I was in a group called My Little Pony Friendship is Fanbase, and that's where I started making my first connections to people. I started by just posting silly little pony memes and drawing people's horses on paper. I didn't get my first source of digital art until 2014. During that time, I was asked to roleplay a lot, using my only character at the time, who I still own. She was a bit more cringe back then. She was Pink Amina's assistant, and I'd roleplay as such. But I'd have lots of different adult roleplays wanting to do way more stuff with me. I can remember going offline and letting a group I was roleplaying with take control of my character to continue the story while I was asleep, as I had school the next day. I woke up to these people impregnating my OC with a changeling and having her give birth to it. She was my Sona at the time. I was 13 to 14 years old. I ended up making a drawing of the character, and I named her Peanut Brittle. I started getting noticed for my art when I was around the age of 15. This is also when I started getting bullied the most by bronies. I joined more art groups and even was an admin of one. I started dating a boy online who went by the name Redacted at the time. He no longer goes by this name. I won't say his current name to protect him against harassment. Redacted was fairly popular in the brony space. He was 17 at the time and had nice art and was popular among the horse famous crowd. He also drew MLP and had not safe for work content of my new pony Sona at the time, blank. Redacted, however, was incredibly abusive at the time, and he would cheat on me constantly, ERPing with lots of people despite him also being a minor, and would threaten to hurt or off himself at the time. I would stay up all night just trying to make sure this boy was okay, as I lived in a different country and had different time zones. I wouldn't sleep. I would go to school tired AF. Whenever I would break up with him, he would tell his horse famous friends that I was abusing him, and they believed it. These adults would harass me, call me an abuser and horrible names for leaving him, then I would get back with him and rinse and repeat. It was a disgusting abusive cycle I couldn't get out of. I feel the relationship is what truly started the hate for me in the brony community. I was surrounded by not safe for work almost daily, despite people constantly knowing my age. The better my art got, the more commissions I got, and the more requests for not safe for work I got. I was told it was okay by adults. I was encouraged and even tipped whenever I drew this kind of content. I was groomed into believing feral was okay, and I still feel disgusted over it. I am an avid hater of feral not safe for work today and actively shame people who produce it. I've seen a few people from back in the brony days bringing that they still have art from when I was a minor of their pony OC that was not safe for work. Why the heck would you hold on to feral not safe for work drawn by a minor, by someone you hate? I was often put in Skype calls with adult bronies who would play Cards Against Humanity, usually custom cards. These adults would make very sexual custom cards based off of pony sonas at the time. Even though they knew my age, we would play with these cards in the deck. I was groomed and surrounded by sex. I didn't think anything of it, that this was normal behavior. It sickens me to this day that it even happened. Now I have quite a few bullies throughout the fandom, and I don't really want to name drop them as it would really give me away, but I would be harassed a lot. I was undiagnosed with BPD, an ASD teenager who had a neglectful mother, and I was incredibly suicidal. I didn't really know how to deal with harassment most of the time, so it would end up with me lashing out and insulting people. I would hide away, and sometimes the harasser would even lead to failed suicide attempts. I attempted to hurt myself 3 times now over bronies, and each time I was mocked and laughed at. I remember one person saying they would see a death certificate from my mother in order to believe my death was real, and that's how funny it was to them. I felt so alone, but I was also addicted to the internet as I had no one at home to talk to either. My Little Pony was meant to be a safe space, but it really wasn't. I dated 2 pedophiles over the course of being in the fandom, both being bronies. First, Redacted, who made me sell all of my pony OCs in order to pay for their fake heart condition. I sold all of my OCs, a total of 900 USD, and then immediately dumped me and ran off with the money. I was 15 to 16 and they were 19 to 20. I eventually was able to buy back some of my OCs. I never fully recovered from that. And my ex, who actually got me out of the relationship by telling me to stop giving money to them and see what would happen, and then proceeded to groom me and another minor who was even younger. I was 16 through 17 and they were 21 to 22. I was able to keep my distance and stay away from the My Little Pony fandom mostly. I grew into furries and started establishing myself there. I was homeless but had just gotten my first roommate situation. I had a shitty roommate who would eat all of my food. My commissions were my only source of income, so I couldn't afford much. Him eating my food was not helping my already bad situation. My partner at the time decided to pitch a plan to put laxatives into my own food to punish him for eating what little food I had. I had talked about it thinking I could vent. I even posted a photo with the name in the box saying the food had laxatives in it. I was immediately accused of intentionally poisoning my roommate. I was called all different kinds of names, kicked out of any My Little Pony groups, and even had my slice of income from then on and taken away from me. Exaggerating the situation, making it out to seem like I sent a man to the hospital and threatened suicide over the backlash. When none of that happened, he just had to run and let my food alone afterwards. After that, I completely gave up on bronies. I sold my My Little Pony merch. I stopped drawing what OCs I had left. I gave up. The fandom was horrible to me, and I should never have been exposed to such things as a child. I was a child, a developing child, and these adults treated me like absolute dog shit, then laughed in my face when I had enough and tried to take my own life. I'd like to mention I also had often private Skype calls with these adults, and we would just talk about random, but it would also still be inappropriate of adults, people to be so close to a young person. At one point, bronies tried to get rid of me by accusing me of tracing. I proved wrong by starting to live stream my work. A few years later, the people who made the beware on me for tracing got caught for tracing themselves, and I have never felt more revengeful in my life. The pure rage I had was crazy. Thank you so much for sharing your story with how awful the community was to you at that time. I am so sorry you had to go through that, especially as a young adult. I know I had to go through some pretty bad stuff when I was in the My Little Pony community as well, which is really sad because My Little Pony was supposed to be a safe space for everyone to have fun, but it ended up being a great place for bad people to take advantage of children. So if you're in the My Little Pony community and adults are being weird to you, that is not normal. Call it out. Adults should not be weird towards kids. With that being said, do I hate the My Little Pony community today? Yes and no. I love what the My Little Pony community stands for, about friendship and community and about just being who you are and having fun. But I hate all of the weird behavior, the adults, the grooming, the weird stuff that would go on behind closed doors, the bullying, and all of that stuff just really ruins the community for someone. But I like to think that maybe the community is getting better slowly. I haven't seen as much feral not safe for work these days, but it definitely puts a bitter taste in my mouth to this day. With that being said, I hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun making it, and I hope all your dreams come true. Bye bye.